A wizard is never late. He arrives precisely when he means to. Isn't that right, chat? Isn't that right? Yo! Yo! Yo, 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 yo. What is going on, my friends? Welcome to Wednesday afternoon. Welcome to Old Man Joppa with his heating pad. His heating pad that is necessary for full neck mobility. What's up? What have you guys done today to make it a great day? Who we got? Who we got? Kurgan, Carrick, Albatross, Dosey, Alinar, Cut Off Your Head, Black Fox, Just Let Me Play, Wolfgar, VTC Pub, Visibility Zero, Ninth Ear, Tanhawk, Olympian, Nagasaki, Kronzik, Sade. We got Mr. Redbeard Flynn. What's up, Redbeard Flynn? Good to see you, man. We have got in the house, who else do we have today? We have Teglaean. We've got Malkael. Welcome. Jay Rickardson, welcome. Indeed. We've got Gwimchim. Good to see you guys. Fringe. Zace. May was enableable. Welcome. Welcome. Looks like Chair grew a beard. You could say that. You could say that. That's fair. Also want to give a hearty hello to Tolmart. Good to see you, Tolmart. Skiotch, Catalyst, Datamuck, Dennis, Bestie, Thet the Monk, and Guts Rage. Good to see you guys. Welcome, welcome. So, apologies for being a little bit late today. There's a lot going on, and it is what it is. But we are here. And hopefully you're ready. What are we doing today? What are we doing today indeed? One of the things I would like to do today is have a little bit of a yap session about this little thing called mastery, because even after a few, like, somewhat, I wouldn't say vague, but not super, detailed, meant to be more kind of like get the ball rolling Reddit AMA responses, which was, that's what they were. They were meant to be to get the ball rolling, get the conversation started, to kind of get you guys geared up and kind of, prepped for where we're going. And then we talked about it more on stream on Monday, and it's one of those things where it seems like there's still a good deal of question. And so I want to do my best. And like I said, we are planning to do a another dev diary on this and go into more detail and more depth. I'm going to be writing that dev diary. And so, what I'm thinking about doing today is kind of using this as an opportunity to kind of talk through the kind of things that I want to be able to talk through and make sure that they're clear, so that when we do put out this dev diary, there aren't going to be any questions. And it's not like we didn't expect there to be some response, obviously to this, because it's one of those things that can go a lot of different directions. And I just want to do my best to try and speak to the, I don't know, some of the fringy edge cases that have come up in discussion since we started talking about it. So yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. We're also going to take a quick look at some of how the way that the Summoner is continuing to develop. Probably going to work on a few aspects of Summoner here live with you guys today. And yeah, we'll kind of see where we go other than those two things. Got the rabble rousers roused. Yeah, Discord's been popping off. we might reference some Discord activity as well. Some of the discussion that's been there. What do you say, though? What do you say that for today, what if we started off with a quick couple rounds of EQ Guesser? Because it's been a minute. And whenever it's been a minute, it kind of gets me thinking, maybe we should play a few rounds. So, I don't know, but that's where I think we're going to start today, guys, with some good old-fashioned EQ Guesser. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, fret not. This is a play on the widely known and popular GeoGuessr, based on EverQuest. And this is an opportunity for us as a group to test our mettle, as it were. How well do we know and remember the world of Norath? For those of us that spend countless hours playing EverQuest, it's an opportunity for us to flex and let the world know just how much time we spent in this game. I'm talking down to the pixel. I'm talking down to the blurry texture map. So we're going to play a few rounds. And the way this works is I am actually going to be able to share a link with you guys, and you can join in and play along. We can all play the same round. We'll be guessing on the same things. And that way we can truly test our mettle against one another. We have kind of a classic starting off point that we do each time. It's tradition. That's a 5-round, 45 seconds per round. No movement, but you can swivel. And we're going classic era. So again, if you're not familiar with EverQuest at all, feel free to join in. Never know. Could be interesting. But for those of you that are familiar with EverQuest, we're going with the classic map, which means we'll be dealing with vanilla EQ locations and map only. So, I think it's time. I'm going to share the link with you guys. As soon as you get the link, you can get started. You can get started. Let me take this opportunity also to say thank you. Thank you so much to Redbeard Flynn for the Prime sub and the 15 months of support. Is it spring yet? Not yet, but we get closer every single day. I cannot wait. And also Finn as well with the tier 1 and the 22 freaking months. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for the support. It is so appreciated. Big time. Thank you, guys. The link has been shared. I usually give a minute or two right at the beginning to give you guys a chance to desync from me, so you're not just watching my inputs. So I'll give it another couple moments here, and then we'll go. And the winner, the gold place winner, gets to pick the parameters for the next round. I know. It's a big deal. It is a big deal. To be the EQ Papa, you must defeat the Joppa. That's funny. That's funny. Funny indeed. Hey, Joppa, you felonious reprobate. That's me. That's what they call me. That's what they call me out on the street. Down at the, the felonious reprobate. Yo, Jiraki, thank you so much for the Prime sub, my friend. Thank you. The support is very appreciated. All right, let's do this. We're diving in. Round 1. Telling you guys, this is where we start. It's either permafrost or this place. Round 1 every single time. Every single time. Clearly, clearly this right here, this area we're looking at is the hole. I want to say we're like right here-ish. Okay. I'll take it. I'll take it. All right, what do we got here? Okay. This one's kind of interesting because I know it's not the G-Fey Druid rings were right next to Kelth, and they didn't have these little fairy Fey things. So I'm thinking it's probably the Elfey. I will say though, I don't remember there being Druid rings right at the entrance to Elfey. I don't know. I don't really have a memory of that, but oh yeah, I guess it wasn't right in the middle of it either. Anyway, that's fine. That's fine. Not too much of a loss there. Ah, yes. Yes. The fabled gnomish city of Akanan. Just to trigger some of you. Akanan. I mean, yeah. Okay. Cool. So far, reasonably good. Reasonably good. This is definitely... We know where this is. Wait, what am I doing? All right. Now, the question is where? Having never actually traversed this dungeon beyond the first couple of rooms, where is this? Where is this? Okay. Cool. Feeling pretty good about this one. It's definitely going to give some people a run for their money. Yes. Okay, my first thought was South Row, but I don't think it's South Row. I don't think it's South Row, but it could be. This guy's throwing me off. And I have learned to go with my gut. So if my first thought was South Row, maybe I should stick with that. That's not that. Well, yeah, that may be it actually. Did we actually do it? Did we figure it out? No, we didn't. Okay. I was gonna say my other thought was North Row because North Row has those friggin' things sticking up through the sand in random places. Man, that one got me, didn't it? That was the one. That was the one. That was the one that knocked me, and that's, hey, that's how it goes. That's how it goes. One little mistake, and you're gone. One little mistake, and you're gone. Anyway, enough of my bellowing. Black Fox, congratulations with the first place win. Excellent work, as usual. Very well done. Very well done. I'm gonna be salty about that one for a little while. That one was... I wouldn't have come in first place. I don't know. No, I wouldn't have come in first place. Yeah, because my round... Well, no. This was round 5. Yeah, I could have come in first place. Well done, Black Fox. Alinar coming in second place, taking home the silver medal today. Congratulations, Alinar. Well done. Very well done. Who's our third placed finalist? Yo, Lowriser with a 7 stream streak. That's awesome. Thank you, Lowriser, for being here. Who's taking home? Who is death? I don't think I've ever seen a death touched modifier. Death touched gray Inithiel tadpole. Man, that thing got wrecked. Gonna death touch a tadpole? Yo, Redbeard, congratulations, taking home the bronze medal. Bronze. Excellent. That's our podium, ladies and gentlemen. That's our podium. Black Fox, Alinar, and Redbeard Flynn. Well done, guys. Way to go. Way to go. All right, Black Fox. What's it gonna be? You know the rules. Hey, what's up, Dougbug? Good to see you. What's up, Chris Frozen? Welcome. Uzi, good to see you. Someone told me that I would delete the save file. I don't know. What's up, Yum? Ardbug says, I haven't been in EQ in 24 years. Is it okay if I just say they're there? If I can't remember the names? Of course. Absolutely, it's okay. How did our YouTube friends do? Oh, you're playing EQ right now. That's cool, Unicorn. Or Unicron, excuse me. What's up, Flange? Will the Feign Death discussion bear fruit before the rest? Or is that purely after spring changes? No, that's for, that will be part of the spring update. That'll be part of the monk work that we do in preparation for the spring update. Speedrun trilogy, no pan 15 seconds. Oh my sweet Christmas. Okay. That's brutal. No pan? I mean, this is going to be hilarious. This is going to be hilarious. This is my kryptonite. I mean, anything past the trilogy is, or past classic is kind of my kryptonite. Those of you who come in here doing like current EQ guesser are like, you guys are, that's crazy. Or whatever it is. Blindfolded EQ classic must identify where you are from music and smell only. All right, here we go. Hold on to your butts. 15 seconds. So this is crazy, guys. So remember, like, don't do what I always do and waste time thinking and deliberating. Just get in there and get out. Get in and get out. I'll give you a few minutes. Yo, Sinister Deeds, thank you so much for the Prime sub. Really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Was porting people to Wild's End while you were playing? Sick. Sick. What's up, Taxiderm? Primus, good to see you. Good to see you both. All right, let's do this. How bad is this going to be? It's going to be bad. We just don't know how bad it's going to be yet. Okay. Again, don't really have much time to do anything here other than just like go with something that seems Hey, let's just keep that energy going here, huh? Let's keep that energy going. Oh, man. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'm going on pure gut. Pure gut. Hey, as long as it stays in classic. Okay. Yeah, see. Okay. Crap. Wow. I don't even know how to find, like, some of these places on the map. Like, all right. Oh, yeah, Dreadlands. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking Dreadlands, and I clicked over there. This actually could have been a good round, because I know where this is, too. Do I? There's, like, no time to click anything. Okay, yeah, never mind. Never mind. Oh my goodness. I do want to call everybody's attention though to this first column here. So yeah. Wow. Black Fox. I was not expecting you to get bumped down that much. Come on now. Ooh. Hey, listen. When you spend as much time at the top as you do, Black Fox, you know, eventually you kind of become the standard by which everything is compared. You know? So hey. This, you know. Just saying. Rooted blue Inithiel tadpole. Who is taking home first place? This is a big deal. Please step forward. Holy crap, I beat Black Fox. I mean, it's a big deal. Big deal. Rooted blue Inithiel tadpole. Somebody's got to claim that first place slot. That's a big deal. That was me. I defer to the content creator. JP. JP, that was you. Rooted blue Inithiel tadpole. This is you, JP. Congratulations, man. Well done. Well done. Second place, Just Let Me Play. Nice clarity to gray. Miss More Vampire, Just Let Me Play. Second place, taking home the silver medal, the silver trophy, the silver amulet, the silver plated bracer. Trying to think of some other silver EverQuest things. So anyway, Malkel taking home third place. Congratulations, Malkel. That, ladies and gentlemen, is our prestigious podium. JP in first, Just Let Me Play in second, and Malkel in third. Well done on a very difficult round, I would say. Like, Trilogy isn't messing around. Trilogy's tough, and when you take Pan away, you're literally at the mercy. You're at the mercy. So well done, guys. Very well done indeed. Okay. Ginjon, is everything coming at once in the spring update or in parts throughout the spring? My understanding of our plan is that it's going to come out in waves when we're talking about as things come into the PTR. So, something will come out when the PTR opens. There'll be, a variety of things, and then we'll continue to roll things out to the PTR. But that once the spring update comes around, it's going to be the culmination of all of that stuff. So it'll all come to the live servers at once, because it will all have flowed into the PTR, been tested, gotten ready, and then we'll all hit the live servers in one singular update. Yeah. Which is going to be a glorious, glorious day. A glorious day indeed. Oh, I can't tell you how excited I am about it. Yeah. I can't tell you how excited I am. And it's there's going to be, a lot of people coming back, playing the game, digging in. It's going to be a really good time. And I think it's going to set a really, really nice, exciting, energized stage for kind of the rest of the march to launch from that point. So yeah, I'm super, super, super jazzed about it. Cannot wait. Can't wait. Okay, now, what are we doing today? So we played a little bit of EQ Guesser. Had a good time, shared a few laughs, had a good run. We all had a good run here. We're going to spend some time now. I want to talk a little bit about... We're going to go back into the mastery system again, because, like I said, there's been lots of conversation happening, which is great. That's what we wanted. A couple of quick caveats, and I want to make some things really clear. When I come onto a stream like this, and I say, "Hey guys, let's talk about this thing," I am not saying, "Hey." Sorry, I just saw Galen say mastery of the universe, and I thought you said masters of the universe, which I thought you were referring to the trailer that I've seen recently of like He-Man. My brain was just like, oh my gosh. I was totally not expecting them to do like anything related to He-Man, so I was really excited to see that. Oh, you were? Nice. Okay. Crazy. Like, it just came on randomly one night. My wife was laughing at my face that I was making, apparently, because I was just in shock and in shocked delight to see this He-Man, modern He-Man. Anyway, when I come on here and I talk about anything, really, if I make statements like, what do you guys think? Or let's talk about this, or whatever. And even if someone will say something and I'm trying to think, I'm sure there's been times when I've been like, oh, that's an interesting idea, or that's cool, or, maybe we'll consider that. In no way am I saying, we're kind of building this on the fly. It's all fluid and we don't know, I feel like there are some people coming away with the conclusion that they don't have a plan. They don't know what they're doing yet. And that's not the case. In fact, with any of these things, we could just do them, roll them out, and then, the first thing you guys see or hear about any of it is just when they're out there and they exist. What I like is, and how I tend to interpret, open development, is that we can say, like, hey, here's the plan. Like, here's what we're doing. And in the same way that we expect on the PTR, for example, you guys to play it, experience it, give feedback, like, hey, this feels good, this doesn't feel good, this hits, this doesn't hit, whatever. It's an opportunity even before that to get, a little bit of a sense of what do you guys think about this plan that we have? And I think in some cases, the perception is that, I'm sitting here and if I see someone say, I don't like it, then I'm going to go, oh crap. Like somebody doesn't like it. We need to go change it. And that's not how it works. So I just want to make that point. This is more an opportunity to engage with you guys on our ideas, engage with you guys, on what's coming, and then, give you the opportunity to kind of interact with it, think about it, talk about it, and all that. So yeah, and I'm me on these streams. Like I don't always, sometimes it takes things like this for me to realize, oh, well, maybe I need to be a little more like, like make it a little more clear. Like this is what we are doing. Like this is the plan. Because I feel like that's probably just assumed, or maybe kind of, I don't know, but it would probably go better for me to make it even that much more firm and clear. But it's funny with game development because, things are, they're extremely iterative. They're extremely malleable. And, it's the nature of these things where you're constantly working through the details. You're constantly working through the actual implementation of things, and you're realizing at different points along the way, things that you might want to tweak or need to tweak or whatever. So anyway, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about Masteries about? I've been out of the loop for a couple of weeks. Yeah. So Masteries coming out in the spring. There's been a lot of thought about what Mastery is actually going to be like. And we've kept a lot of that kind of close to the chest. We did a Reddit AMA last week, and there were some questions related to Mastery and how different classes would look and how it would work. And we decided to answer a few of those with some kind of some hints about where things are going with the system. And we did that ultimately to get the ball rolling on, you guys kind of understanding where it's going and, allow for some discussion of various things to get rolling. And I talked about it also a little bit on Monday's stream. And I just want to try to like lock some things in and settle some things so there's no more, I don't know, wondering about how things are going to go. Yeah. You've talked quite a bit about what the new plans for Mastery will accomplish, how it might work, etc. However, what I don't think I have heard clarity on is the why behind this rather significant change from a more partial flex approach to a more full flex to another role approach. Could you elaborate on the why behind the philosophy shift? To be clear, I'm not against the change, just a bit confused by it. Yeah, I can definitely do that. I'm a bit doubtful with summoners not getting the Titan outside of Mastery, but I will reserve judgment until I try the new summoner. I assume you do it for a good reason, so I have to trust that. Yep. All right, well, we can start there. I think that might be a good place to start this whole, why the shift. Where do we want to start with that one, though? Give me a second to get my thoughts together. We want to start with that one. Start with flexing. That'd be a good way to start. Okay, so let's start there. It's funny that you asked that question too, Finn, and kind of hearing you talk about it, because I do have stress neck. I do. This thing is, hold on. I don't even know if it's on. It's not even on. There we go. So I remember talking to you, Finn, one point. I think it was, I'm trying to remember what context it was, where specifically we were talking about the soft specking. And for some reason, I remember it was like in Hangor. I feel like I remember being in Hangor, or I don't know. It was on whatever static group live streams used to be called. Okay. So on like Pantheon Plus. So one of the things that I really liked about EverQuest was, and I came to like it and appreciate it, I think, in a post-WoW world. Because after playing WoW for a long time, and WoW being, you know, my second favorite MMO of all time, next to EverQuest, I played WoW long enough to experience the kind of the transition of talents creating full standalone classes, and the role, kind of the role changing that talent trees created long enough to experience dual specking. And when I finished playing WoW, I finished right around the midpoint of Cataclysm. That's when I stopped playing. And I played heaviest during Wrath. So Wrath of the Lich King was the height of my playing, and I petered out midway through Cataclysm. So I experienced a lot of those changes, and because EverQuest has always been my true north and kind of my go-to, you know, I'm constantly comparing, and, you know, and I'm constantly revisiting. I mean, EverQuest is a game that I will go back and play, you know, many times, where I've not really ever gone back and played WoW seriously. So my starting point with Pantheon, and this was all the way back, I will never forget when I met Brad for the first time in person. It was going to the DICE convention. I think it was in 2016. It was the first time that I met him in person. I remember I was driving, he was driving, or maybe it was Brad, myself, and Chris Rowan, our CEO. It was the first time I met both of them in person. And we were driving to DICE, and I was in the back seat, just absolutely out of my mind, as you can imagine, with like, I can't believe I'm here. Like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, I'm literally sitting here with Brad McQuaid, you know, talking about how, like, what we want to do with Pantheon and various things. And that drive in was when I was given the reins for the classes. Like, that's that conversation where I even asked him, I was like, I mean, I would love to just design these. Like, I would love to just take this on. And he was like, yeah, go for it. I was like, what? Are you serious? That was really cool. That's one of my favorite memories. But I remember at that point, like right at the beginning, of thinking like, I really want to lean more towards EverQuest in our class design than something like World of Warcraft, specifically because one of the things that I really want to capture again is that sense of class identity, and to a degree the class interdependence that you had in EQ, and you still had in class interdependence in WoW, Like, you still needed a healer, you still needed a tank. But what happened with WoW is you had a lot of things. You didn't have a dedicated CC class. You didn't really have a dedicated support class or things like dedicated utility. You had a lot of that stuff spread between all the different classes, so that for the most part, as long as you had someone tanking and someone healing, everybody else could just kind of generally cover whatever else was needed. And so there wasn't too much. I felt like the class identity, as far as like the flavor and the playstyle of the classes, was really strong in WoW. It's definitely a strong suit, but the interdependence and the kind of the role identity wasn't there for me. So that's why originally, and right when I first started working on class stuff with Pantheon, mastery was not in view. No, there was no, I didn't really have any sense of like an AA system or a mastery system or anything like that. It was literally just the class designs. Fast forward a little while, and you get to the stage where, people are asking the question all the time, like, are you guys going to do alternate advancement? Are you guys going to have AAs? Are you guys going to have talents? Are you guys going to have this and that? And I had already started a little bit of this work when I was trying to think through something like a, if you guys remember, if you've been around a long time, if you're an OG, you'll remember multicolored mana and this notion that we would have different, colors of mana. And, we looked at some different ways of incorporating that. And one of the first ways, I actually want to see if I can find some of the original documentation I have on that. That would be really interesting to find again. Hold on. One of the first ways that I tried to explore that design-wise was through a specialization system based on mana color. So I can find it. Okay. So hold on. All right. Kind of doing our little Wayback Machine here. So this is from March 17th, 2015. This is when I wrote this, and this is, well, I guess that it's actually from March 11th. That's when I created this document. This was designed to be potentially a way to incorporate, and this was the first notion of like mastery. So colored mana proposal, not going to go through all this, but this third point here, the class mastery process, where classes gain access to specializations by fusing their natural mana color with a new mana color. And the idea here, I don't think I have like specific examples, maybe, but for example, like a paladin could be a faithful paladin by fusing with gold mana, whereas a devout paladin or a resolute paladin would fuse with. Oh yeah, here we go. Anyway, this doesn't matter all that much. This is kind of a rabbit trail anyway, but it's to say it was literally all this time ago that the first kind of inklings of mastery and what mastery could look like came into play just through this colored mana. But it was problematic. There were a lot of issues with it. The colored mana system in general was just kind of it never felt right, never landed. And so anyway, to fast forward, mastery first came into play as like the mastery you guys first knew about with like ability based mastery came into play, several years later, and was again meant to kind of reinforce a class being a class, like a warrior being a warrior, a cleric being a cleric, but more about realizing your full potential and doing that on an ability by ability basis, where you can, improve and strengthen all of your abilities over time until you're fully maxed out. We tried that. And what we found is that it created a lot of balance issues, ultimately. And at the end of the day, it left us with a system where you had to baseline players at such a degree of kind of being less than in order for mastery to come in and provide like such a strong power path to make it engaging. And it ended up just not really landing. And a lot of the time we spent from the time when we took mastery out and we, went through all the process that we did over the last couple of years of, achieving kind of our intended balance and, fleshing various things out. We kind of had gotten to the point with mastery where we were like, okay, if we're going to do this, we really need to think about how is this going to actually be fun? Like, maximally fun for our players. How is this going to be something where we're able to, more easily manage it, balance it, and allow players to build for it and towards it, without having to do some like crazy baselining and lots of other dev speak. I could say that what it really boils down to is, as we've been, going through over this last year and a half of prepping for everything that's coming in the spring update, mastery has been a big part of that conversation. And the reason why, so let me just say, with all that being said, the main reason that I would point to for myself personally, having kind of walked you through my history a little bit and, what about the EQ class design was important to me and why we kind of held that line for a long time versus, kind of what we just announced is twofold. Number one, I think the approach that we're taking with mastery ultimately is going to be more fun, more of an enjoyable way of approaching like your character and your class than the alternative, than what we had before. And number two, it's because we don't have to do it like WoW. And what I mean by that is it doesn't have to take away from class identity. Because honestly, if I felt like it did, or to the degree that it did, I wouldn't really be able to get on board with it. And my goal is to kind of help you guys understand, I guess, as we kind of talk through this today, why I think that's the case. So I guess I would sum all that up to say the conviction hasn't changed. I want our classes to be distinct. I want our class roles to be very distinct. I want our class designs, individual class designs, to be very distinct. And I believe we can maintain that while creating this kind of alternate advancement progression system to add more depth to the game, more variety to class play than we were previously headed towards doing. So I think that's, hopefully that's clear. Like, I think the answer is because I don't think it's a compromise ultimately of the original plan, like completely. I don't think I don't think we're I don't think we're in danger of losing our class identity. Clear as carbonite. Good. Thanks, Glorf. Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, again, you guys, goodness gracious, this thing. I don't know how that answer lands on you guys, like to say it's going to be more fun. Like, I don't know if that seems like a silly answer, but at the end of the day, like, that's one of the most important things about making a video game. So yeah, let's think through some examples. Like, let me think of a good place to start. Oh, I know that many of you are not against the idea. I know it's more of just it's more of like the why. It's sounding like Pantheon Mastery System might pursue something similar to the way classes in DAOC had 2 or 3 different specialization options. DAOC did it with a base class and spec points to spend in spec lines being optimal at one spec line meant sacrificing the other lines. Choosing all specs meant being middle of the road at everything. It obviously opens a can of worms in terms of balance, but it provided some meaningful options. Yeah. And we're being very, very intentional about the balance side of this. I know that's a thing that's mentioned a lot, like, this is this is so much more work and this is going to be crazy hard. And the reality is we really have done a good job. And I have to commend Fusoya, big time for, how meticulous he is and has been with all of the different, like, information that we need to have clearly in view to make sure that we can do this well and in a balanced way. The reason we can do this is because we've been able, and largely through his efforts, to balance the game, have a really, really good sense of like how to maintain that. Yeah, Mine. So Mine said, "I'm surprised there's concern about this. Why would you not want to be able to lean a little harder on whatever playstyle you like with any of your classes?" And the reason is because there is a concern, and it's a reasonable one. Like we've seen in, like a World of Warcraft type game where you have a lot of crossover and you have a lot of dilution that happens because classes are able to do so many things to substantiate them having these different specs that, you start to kind of chip away at how special it is, or how, the identity of like having this particular class here to do this particular thing. And that's why I'm saying I think there is, I'm sure, many ways, but there are definitely ways to do this that doesn't take it down that path. So let's talk about this. Let's well, let me check my. Okay, good there. Hold on. And I want to stress again too, guys, like when we put things out like on Dev Diaries or whatever, the caveat should always be there that like there are aspects of these things that are subject to change. And I think it's easy for a narrative to grow of like, you know, well, then they don't know what they're doing. You know, like they don't have a plan. They don't have like a whatever. And there needs to be, number one, an appreciation for like how massive some of these systems are and how broad sweeping they are, and how, you know, we are, number one, we're trying to move very fast. Like we're trying to be very aggressive and ambitious with our timeframes because we want to get this game out the door. We want to get it fully launched. We want to get all these systems in play. And you have to build into your minds some expectation for iteration. And the example I gave on Monday was when we came out with the Dev Diary talking about the mastery system, we included a graphic that had the 3 branches represented as those 3 horizontal bars. And then on Monday, I said, at the same time that we were kind of prototyping out, you know, as we've been prototyping the mastery system based on that layout, we've also been looking at a radial layout, and we've decided to shift towards the radial layout as kind of our way of having you guys interact with it, because we needed to kind of go a distance with both, and ultimately where we landed was on the radial. And there are going to be other things where, you know, we say, hey, based on, you know, making sure we're maximizing fun and coherency and, you know, user experience, we've decided to tweak this or change this aspect of exactly how we're going to implement this. You just got to get that kind of settled, that there is going to be some of that. Okay, so let's start chipping away at some of the concerns. If a warrior has a way through mastery to become a full-fledged DPS class, then how are you going to balance a tank being able to deal damage like that? That's one of the big questions I've seen come up. And the answer is he would no longer be a tank. It's that simple. He would no longer be a tank. I'll give you some. Well, that's his role. Okay. But by the way, these things, what I think is so cool about this, I got these for Christmas. These are fidgets, little fidget magnets. I just realized that these are showing up as like black mainly because they're so green. But because I'm actively fidgeting with them, I don't want anyone to be like, what on earth is he holding there? So just wanted you guys to know what this is. That's not what I thought they were. Well, let's break that down. So if the response to what I just said is, okay, so we're going full-blown WoW talent trees and subclassing, the answer I would say to that is no. Because there is a degree of okay, let's put it this way. Let's imagine the warrior, instead of doing three branches. So like Bastion, Warlord, and Commander. Let's imagine that there's two. Let's imagine that when you open your mastery array, your mastery window, you're going to see a radial, you're going to see a circle. And on the left side of that circle, you have your Bastion themed side. And on the right side, you have your Warlord themed side. Which side you push into is going to some degree, and how far you push into it is going to fundamentally change some things about your class. So if I am, whatever the warrior's base kit is, and there's going to be a lot of shared base kit, but not a completely shared base kit. Some things will be unlocked through mastery. Some things will be augmented or transformed through mastery. And then some things will just improve, through mastery. But if I, for example, if I say, you know what, I love the idea of being a DPS warrior because they're weapon masters. Like, how cool is that? I want to be, able to wear plate and deal damage. How cool is that? You have a warlord tree available to you. You have a warlord side. And as you dig into that, you're going to find, for example, that warlord warriors do not get shield block. For example. All warriors will have slam, but Bastion warriors will convert slam into shield slam, which will be different. Warlord warriors will have, different kind of cleave. Warlord warrior will, get rupture, unlock rupture as an ability in their tree. They will start to deviate to the point where if I say, you know what, I'm going all in on this warlord warrior, I am going to lose out on the things that ultimately are going to make a Bastion warrior the tank that it is. And so you can think of this mastery as like you have your mainline spec, you have your mainline class true spec, you could call it, which of course for the warrior is a tank. They are a tank class. And as you go into the Bastion tree and, imagine, some of the more commander-like things are kind of like interspersed throughout. So you've got, different options for like storm. You've got different options for close the gap, for, like your shouts, for example, because we're building out the shout arsenal for warriors, but shouts are more of like the warlord warrior side of things, whereas banners are more of the Bastion warrior side of things. But as you go kind of deeper and deeper into the warlord side, you are going to lose the things that make the Bastion warrior the tank that it is. For example, Bastion warriors are going to be the ones that have the ability to unlock heavy plate armor. Warlord warriors are going to be, only able to go up to light plate, but Bastion warriors, heavy plate. Bastion warriors, shield block. Bastion warriors, shield wall, shield slam. They're going to have a lot of shield oriented abilities that are unique to them, whereas the warlord warrior is not going to be able to access those things, either because they're not going to have enough points if they want to go as far as they can into warlord to kind of like really achieve that full, like I'm going all in on wanting to be like a DPS focused warrior. They're not going to have enough points to get far enough in that other side of the tree to unlock a lot of those things. But there's also going to be exclusive unlocks. So it's like, if I unlock this node in the warriors and the warlord side, that's going to cancel out my ability to unlock this node on the other side. What makes a warrior is their intoxication skill. There you go. There you go. Now there is a mix and match potential. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I think is really interesting about this is there's nothing saying that you have to go all the way on either side. You can absolutely, do a more balanced approach, and there will be some things that have some some nodes that have prerequisite, some options that you have to spend a certain amount of points in, like the warlord side of things, to unlock this option or that option. But for the most part, there will be a lot of freedom for people to explore and try different things. Because the other thing I want to say about this, going back to like, well, why this shift, is because we are trying to drive home the fact that like there are going to be a lot of different kinds of people that play Pantheon, and some people are super interested in heavy, if not group only gameplay, focused on in-game rating, meta, optimal efficiency, and for people that are interested in that kind of playing that kind of way and they want to go tank, then they're not going to care about, like, they're only going to care about the aspects of the warlord side that enhance ultimately their bastion meta side, and that's totally fine. Like, in fact, that's great. But then there are going to be a lot of people that play Pantheon that don't have any interest in raiding. They may barely have any interest in grouping. They may just enjoy, coming in and existing in a world and either playing by themselves or playing with, one of their kids or a spouse or, whatever. And they find that some kind of like crazy balanced, kind of mastery between the two is what really suits them. And that's great. That's great. And that's the cool thing about having a system like this, is that it does what it was intended to do originally, which is to represent the full scope of what a warrior in Pantheon is. A warrior in Pantheon is a tank. They are a shield wielding, plate wearing, like, vanguard. They are a commander, they are a leader, they are a tank, but they are also weapon specialists. They are also weapon specialists. And there is every reason within that framework to say, yeah, warriors typically are also going out there with their weapons and smacking things around. And it makes sense that there's a way to kind of build out a much more offensively oriented warrior for that reason. But I think you have to be, I do think it gets silly if we forget that this is like a very carefully designed and curated thing. So the idea that, like, you would see like like a rogue healer or, I don't know, like whatever other crazy ones that I've seen come out with. That's, now, the other cool thing that this allows us to do, let's get off the warrior for a second. Let's talk about ranger. Is that you, Lewin? Is that Lewin, or is that a different Lewin? I haven't seen that name in a while. Let's talk about Ranger. How many of you have pined, longed, ached for the ability to be an archer? Human sacrifice. Yeah. That's what I mean by archer, is like a human sacrifice, yeah. Sade, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You can essentially do that right now. There's no reason to engage. But knowing that in the spring, Rangers are going to be refreshed to the point where like it will be, everything from their momentum resource, their, some of their different abilities, it'll be more of a defined distinction there. But so for something like the Ranger, because not every class is going to have a subclass spec. Not every class is going to have like a subclass mastery specialization. So the Ranger, for example, the Ranger is going to be, you're either going to be able to focus on archery to the point where you can become like a true, like full stop ranged DPS specialist, or you will have the side that's more melee and skirmishing oriented, and then interspersed all throughout your mastery tree on both sides are going to be a lot of your survivalist, your druid magic, your balms and tonics, things related to foraging, things related to tracking, things related to weapon coatings, animal beacons, those types of things. And so you'll have classes like the Ranger that are more, they're less about, kind of taking on a whole different role in a group, and more about kind of fleshing out whether you want your focus to be on archery or melee skirmishing, and then what specific aspects of the Ranger you really want to lean into. No, they don't. That's right. They don't flex into other roles, other class roles. But, so I like, obviously I've been big on flexing, like flexing. I liked and like flexing. I'm only sad that it's not, we've never like developed it as much as I originally wanted to, and really, really like carved it in. But this is kind of a way of doing that. Just more with more weight. So for example, like right now, rogues can CC for a group. They can. If you're skilled enough, they can. Being able to choose as a rogue, I love this. Like I love this play style. In fact, I'm not even as interested in DPSing as a rogue. I would love to just, for this to be my role. I would love to be in a group, this, tricks of the trade, thief style rogue that is focused more on CC and disruption and control than I am on being a DPS class. And so while, non-tricks of the trade rogues, mastery-wise, will still be able to flex to a degree, being able to like fully lean into that, I think is really cool. I think it's really cool, and I think it's really good for. I think it's really good for the game because I think it's staying within the framework that we've already kind of walked through and developed for what substantiated flexing in the first place. It's not like we're just going out and just kind of crazily being like, yeah, we'll let rogues be healers. It's like, because they could, like, we could go that route and say, well, because of all their alchemical stuff and like this, that, and the other, and we pull all these things and split hairs and whatever. We could substantiate that, but the point is like not to try and substantiate things that go against a lot of what we've already established with the flexing. Yeah, Malkel, once mastery is in play and it's kind of all kind of out there and established, then yeah, we'll update that for sure. Scar, melee ranger. Yeah. Speaking of flexing more emotes soon. Yeah, we can watch a little bit of that video, Chris. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Let's see. I had it. I've watched it. I've personally watched it. Let's see. We're not going to watch all of it, but we'll skim through it a little bit and let's see.
Your favourite computer game featuring your favourite classes as well, or rather my favourite classes, which are the rogue and the necromancer, with like smatterings of the enchanter, and then recently the summoner as well, although that has kind of gone by the by. But I wanted to do a video today because there's been a lot of
the full mastery will be in spring,
after the AMA on Friday on Reddit, which I wasn't a part of because I don't have a Reddit account, so I've just kind of caught up on the transcribe of all the questions and everything and read root, mana guzzle, and you can fill your entire bar up just purely from crowd control. So that, if we have a look, and I've made this kind of matrix here, which I did, like I say, I did this over 2 years ago now. However, because it was 2 years ago, I have kind of swapped things around. So I've swapped the tanking and the healing, because then we can go tanking DPS down here, which makes a little bit more sense. It's a bit easier to demonstrate what we want to talk about. So the purpose of this matrix was to kind of place everybody in a flex position and where they were on this kind of like the matrix, the class role or the group role matrix, which I did. Again, this was over 2 years ago now. So the important ones to place.
I think you need to
the critical ones that you kind of place in, and you get an understanding of.
Add in the next diary that there will be very clear role change possibilities with mastery.
So for instance, the warrior.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second.
The Tank King. It's the king of Tank King. So the warrior is up here as the king. Okay, so the warrior is the best one. I don't think that's unreasonable to say. The warrior has plate armor. He's always going to be historically he's the one who's best at standing in front of the mob and yelling at it and making sure it's hitting him. He's the best at tanking because he holds the best aggro. He's the best at tanking because he has the best the best damage mitigation. So best tanking up there. Cleric, healing, obviously. Best healer is
there's some opinions in here, Chris. There's some strong opinions in here. Throwing that best around a little freely.
I think that's pretty obvious that it's going to be an enchanter. We are a little bit lax on the crowd control side of things, but the Enchanter is the best crowd control class. So that's a iconic part of the group makeup is down here. And then the DPS, now this is up for debate. I'm going to put the Wizard down here. I think the Wizard is...
I'm going to fast forward just a smidge.
However, he also does a little bit of DPS. So when you get to that, you can slide him down the tanking matrix and then slide him across down onto the DPS. So he kind of lands somewhere around here. When you get the Paladin is a really good tank, but he also heals a bit. So you can slide him down the tanking axis down here and then slide him towards the healing. So you end up with the Paladin somewhere around here, which kind of makes sense, right? He's not as good as a warrior. I mean, he probably should be a little bit higher on the tanking than the Dialog.
One sec. Nino01, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub and the 11 months of support. Looking forward to getting back in and seeing what's new since my last playthrough, Joppa. I made a very long feedback post before I left. My last time, you guys are doing great. That is awesome. Nina, thank you so much for that. Thank you for the support and thanks for being here. So cool.
Because he is in plate armor, he can have a shield. So the Dialord ends up being a little bit more like the Barbarian with the lighter armor and a massive big two-handed weapon. So you end up with something like that. Now we start looking at the healers, and we've got the Shaman. So the Shaman is not quite as good at healing as the Cleric, but is probably coming along the lines of the DPS. So he's coming down here somewhere, and he probably lands somewhere around here. He's pretty...
So I want to stop here long enough to say that, yes, the game is playable right now. Yeah, you can find it on Steam, Ghostly Wolf. It's still in early access, so, you know, still heavily in development, but very much playable. The starting point here, this is something that I think is really key, and that is we're not designing any one class to be the best at their role. The way I've defined it historically is that we want each class within a role, for example, like between the Warrior, Paladin, and Dire Lord, to have kind of a forte or an edge. For example, warriors, the goal for warriors is for them to be, you know, if we wanted to say like maybe the best at physical damage mitigation, because warriors ultimately, and Bastion warriors specifically, will be able to wear heavy plate mail, and they will be the only class that can wear heavy plate mail, plus their shields and some of their abilities. Like they will probably be, you know, at the top of physical damage mitigation, but that does not mean, and here, this is going to blow some of your minds, so hold on to your butts. That does not mean that Paladin and Dire Lord are meant to not be competitive. And in fact, to that end, we are actually making Dire Lords able to wear light plate come spring. So Dire Lords are now going to be able to step up into the light plate arena. And yes, I can hear the rejoicing. I can hear the rejoicing right now from the Dire Lord community, blowing my eardrums out. But yeah, that's because, and the reason is because, and here's what's so key, and here's why we're going to be getting into this conversation in relation to mastery, because what I said on Monday, and I'll take some, you know, some credit for some of this, maybe some of this confusion. What I said on Monday is something to the effect of, I don't mind the idea of a class like the Warrior going full DPS to be on par with something like an average skilled rogue or an average skilled wizard or an average skilled ranger or whatever. Like a high skilled warrior being on par with that. That is what I said. But to clarify, that does not mean that our plan is for a warrior who goes full warlord to be an ever struggling to only kind of line up with average players DPS wise. Because even though on some level that makes sense, if the goal is to maintain the idea that there's not like a true role switch happening, and I think I like, and I can get my head and my heart kind of around that because I understand and I can relate to like that original idea of like there's only one kind of way that a warrior is in Pantheon and that's it. But in reality, for there to be any real motivation to like go that route, there has to be a path towards competitive performance. Like if we're going to say, okay, you can be a fully, all the way warlord warrior because you want your class fantasy. When you think of playing Pantheon, you think of playing a warrior that is able to, wield weapons like a master weapon, like a weapon master, and you're able to kind of like go to town. DPS wise, you need to know that you are going to be competitive, that you are going to be invited to groups, that you are going to be able to go on raids as a DPS contributor. That has to be the thing. And it's related to what I was going to talk about here in relation to this video, is that we're approaching our fundamental class roles in the same way. Like a warrior and a dire lord and a paladin all need to be viable tanks. What that means is even though dire lords will have an edge when it comes to things like magic and spell damage, warriors also need to be able to deal with magic and spell damage more than they can right now, because otherwise you're not going to have a reason to bring a warrior to a heavy spell damage fight. In the same way, dire lords and paladins need to be able to deal with physical damage in a reasonably competitive way compared to warriors, or else they're not going to have a spot when those things come. And it doesn't mean that we don't have the freedom to do, more stylized encounters where it's like this is an insanely heavy physical damage fight, so you really, really need a warrior for this. This is an insanely heavy, spell damage fight. You really need a dire lord for this. It like doesn't mean we can't do that. And the same for, paladins. Like if a paladin's only shtick is undead, then anytime you go somewhere where there's not undead, paladins are gonna be like, why am I here? So I am totally good. And the same applies to healers. Like you can't have a best healer. You can, but we're not going that route where clerics are like, even though, cleric's my main, like but you can't, like shaman and druid have to be able to compete. So that they'll have a game to play, Doesn't mean we can't have, fortes. Doesn't mean we can't have places and situations where certain classes shine. We really need that. That's like, I probably shouldn't have even said it that way. It doesn't mean we can't. I would say it's really important that we do still have places where certain classes, because of what they are, shine. But in general, we do have to think in terms of like more of a competitive performance across the board. So if a DPS warrior can match a rogue in DPS, can a CC spec rogue match an enchanter in CC? Not necessarily. I don't think it has to go to that extreme, and I think it gets a little bit different when you think about... So the way I would answer that question is that I think there could absolutely, because of rogues' stealthing capabilities, I think there's absolutely places and situations where rogues could even be superior to enchanters simply because of the way that they do what they do. But in terms of raw power and coverage, I don't think it means the rogue needs to match the enchanter in that sense. So we leave, what I'm not describing is some kind of like really surgical, like I've talked about that before. We're not trying to create literal, like, 0.01% parity between the classes. It's just more to say that, like, I'm really trying to speak more to the fact that if you choose to go a CC rogue route, or you choose to go an avoidance monk tank route, like if you can't actually do the content, if you can't actually fulfill that role, then what are you doing? Like there's really no reason to have it. So okay, what was your question about that, Glorf? By the way, Tanok, thank you so much for the tier 1. Really appreciate that, guys. Thank you. Tanok, 11 months. Thank you so much, my friend. Joppa, are heavy, light, plate, chain, leather going to come back as official gear types that we will see? Or are they just going to be back-end distinctions that some plate is just not usable unless you're the tankiest mastery build? They will be the armor types will be visible to you. You will see that this is heavy plate mail armor. Yeah. Okay. All right. So anyway, I just wanted to make that distinction. We'll watch a little bit more here.
Tanking, well, I say he's pretty good at tanking. He can tank at a push, but his DPS is probably better than the cleric. Same with the druid. The druid DPS is probably a little bit better than the cleric as well. The druid also has a root, so it's coming down into the crowd control area down here somewhere. So you can see how this starts kind of coming out. The necromancer, let's put the necromancer in.
Oh, sorry. Well, just to clarify, we're going to have cloth and martial cloth, leather, chain, light plate, and heavy plate. So we're not reintroducing light and heavy leather, light and heavy chain. Yeah. And chainmail, because of Dire Lords moving up to light plate, chainmail is really going to be kind of like a transitionary armor type. So you're not going to see any of the tanks long term in chain. You're not going to see clerics long term in chain. You know, you're ultimately going to graduate up into your plate mail, and so chain will be kind of a transitionary armor type. And those things will likely be handled through skill, and I say likely as in they will be. So armor proficiency will be a skill, not a skill that you improve, but it'll be one of those skills that you kind of earn and unlock. So like leather armor proficiency, chain armor proficiency, light plate armor proficiency, heavy plate armor proficiency. These will be things that you have to unlock. That's going to be one of the ways that we manage some of the prestige of these items, so that you don't see level 1s running around in like full plate mail, because you'll have to actually have the kind of proficiency that you need to equip it, which I think is going to be a vibe. Armor does do something now. Armor will do. We're gonna tweak it to where at lower levels and with lower damage in play, you're gonna feel the effects of armor more than you do now. Yeah. Are we getting bards? Oh heck yeah, yeah. I'm literally having to keep Phil PVL, the head of the PVL audio studio that we are partnered with. I'm literally trying to keep him at bay because he's so freaking excited about getting started on it, and I'm just not, like, we're not there quite yet. But yes, bards are definitely planned. If you loved it in EQ, Lamza, then I've said it before on stream. My goal for the bard in Pantheon is that it will be thought of as the best bard in any MMO ever, and that is going to be a combination of the mechanics of the class and the role and what it does and how it does it, and it's going to be the depth of the music and the instrumentation and kind of the authenticity and the cool factor of all that stuff. Yeah. Will Bard wear light plate? Yes. Yes, they will. All right.
Not as good at crowd control as the Enchanter, so you slide it down the crowd control axis, and then you slide it across to the DPS. Necromancer, completely viable and completely acceptable to have the Necromancer somewhere here.
No, Dire Lord's not my favorite. I love Paladins
Now,
too. I
the
love
issue
Paladins.
is when we get to the rest of the DPS. Now the DPS down here, the easy one to put in is the Monk. Okay, I say easy. The one that doesn't take up the space, and you'll see why in a second. So the Monk, arguably, you can all make your arguments for this one, but not as high a DPS as the Wizard, but can tank. So the Monk kind of comes somewhere around here. So is able to tank, hasn't quite got the DPS of the Wizard. And then you have the Ranger, probably, and this is where we get a little bit congested down here. So not quite as high DPS as the Wizard, has a bit of crowd control.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit because I want to see where you talk about the flexing.
As an alert was yesterday, just they get the Earth Pet and they go right down that tree, which sounds like it might be like an off tank or a main tank tree for the Earth Pet. Then the Summoner can kind of start flexing up to here somewhere. Okay, is it going to get up to the Warrior? But it bloody well shouldn't do.
So that's it. That's the rub. Okay. Yes, the plan is for the Titan to be unlocked via mastery for the Summoner, and for the Titan unlock to be low enough, early enough in that part of the mastery array for the Summoner that if you want to have a Titan, you can have a Titan very early. The difference is going to be, do you want to develop your Titan because you want to actually tank as a Summoner? And I mean tank, like tank. That's when you're like, okay, we're locking in. Like, we're going all in on this, mastery-wise, and going to turn the Titan into a genuine bona fide tank, which means the Titan is actually going to be able to tank. In the same way as the other three tanks? Absolutely not. It's going to have its own weaknesses. It's going to have its own strengths. Will we end up with, Summoner's main tanking raid content? Maybe. As in hold aggro effectively? Absolutely, yeah. Yep. So that means that Summoners that are interested more in the DPS side of the Summoner, but still want to have the Titan because they want to, they enjoy it for the soloing aspect of it, or they want to have it in, small groups or whatever, then they have the option to get that really early and kind of get into a similar place like they are now. But if you want, that's going to be kind of that special, you're going to have your main line true spec for the Summoner, which is like they are a DPS class, and that is going to be focused on the Fury and the Zephyr, and you'll have options for both and kind of all that. But then that kind of subclass for them is going to actually be a legitimate tank role that they can realize through the Titan, which is going to be super cool. It's going to be super cool. How will Summoner stats impact these pets? Largely through your mana. So a lot of the pet abilities are going to flow from your mana pool. And then, you'll have your own, the pets will have their own stats, through their gear and whatnot. Yeah, we can do some cool stuff with the visuals for the Titan when they go that route. So you said Dire Lords will get light plate and needing the proficiency. Will that be character level gated? Yeah, it will. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It may be up to on par, maybe with some of these. If you're a really good, player, and you've got some really good gear, so somewhere around here, maybe. Like I'd probably say just underneath the 2 tank classes, because you don't want to be. This is the thing. You don't really want to be overtaking the classes which are intended to do the role specifically, or do you? So that's the summoner one. So that's the flexing that you can do with the mastery, or that they've been talking about with the mastery. Now, I was saying in my original flex video, and like I mentioned at the beginning. Like
This is Chris Frozen. This is one of our community members. He's a content creator.
Purely with your limited action set. So
Does a lot of like good like commentary and content on the game. So he was talking about the mastery system.
Very good at crowd control. Now I can give
and we're just reacting to a little bit of it.
One of my stuns, I can give up my spell steal, so I've only got 1 stun and hush, and then I can put on a dot, and I can put on my nuke, and I've still got my mana guzzle, so I can get my mana guzzle back, and I've still got my mez, maybe I've still got my root on there. So at that point, I'm not right up here, I'm kind of flexing and kind of coming in with my ability choices, I'm moving down towards DPS, but my crowd control has dropped a fraction. Okay, I'm still the best crowd controller because I can still mez everything. So I'm still.
Yeah, this is him. He's reacting to the most recent dev diary.
But I'm kind of just moved down a little bit over here. Okay. So this is in relation.
Not the most recent dev diary. Sorry, the
to everything else in the game.
The mastery dev diary we did a little while back, but then also some of the recent comments about mastery from the Reddit AMA, and I think probably from my stream on Monday.
They've used the warrior as an example for. Like the blue ribbon example for all their mastery stuff that they're talking about at the moment. And they are saying, and they've backtracked a little bit on this one, but they were saying that the line that came out was saying that if you took a mastery path for the warrior, you would be able to do adequate DPS in comparable DPS to some of the DPS classes. So all of a sudden, you're moving from tanking down here. So you're comparable to a rogue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that starts creating some problems. Because if I can still tank, if I'm still able to hold aggro, then why on earth am I ever going to take a rogue in the group when I can have a tank that can also do DPS? Right? Now, I don't think that...
I think that's... I think, and Chris, to the degree that you continue on with that kind of line of question and processing through that, I think that's definitely highlighting one of the main points of confusion, which is the idea that, you know, a warrior that went warlord would maintain all of the things that make it the viable kind of main tank that it is, and then it would just add on to that all the DPS stuff, when in reality the mastery system will be set up to, as you make one of those choices and as you go further into one of those sides, you're going to be sacrificing quite a bit related to the defensive tanking warrior to be able to maintain the offensive warrior DPS role. Sorry, I was distracted by Glorf's commentary. I'm telling you, I've got to catch a Glorf stream as well, so I can come in and heckle him, because I got him killed last time. I think when I popped in on your stream, I almost got you killed last time. You're due for some fresh heckling, Glorf. You're due for some fresh heckling. Yeah, almost. Yeah, he pulled it out. Pet main tank for raids. I don't know, man. I think it would be pretty cool. Like, and I imagine it would take, you know, and the cool thing about some of this is that I don't expect to see a lot of that, you know? Like, I expect it to be kind of cool to see a summoner that's like, that's their thing. Like, that's their thing. I don't imagine it'll be like a super popular route, but I think it'll be one of those that it's just really cool to see. But yeah, targeting needs to be fixed for pets, pet pathing, like some of the AI stuff, like a lot of it would need to be fixed. And I don't know, that's sometimes that's how I view things, is it's like, you know, here's what we want to do, so that's the reason we need to dig in and like fix these things and actually get them working right, because that's what we need to do. You know, this is the goal, so let's get on what we need to do to make it happen. And also keep in mind too that one of the things we're exploring for the summoner is the ability to basically become your pet for a period of time. That's kind of a cool little beanish, you know, thing to put out there. So when it comes to the more like intricate technical positioning and some of the more kind of like fine-tuned raid-oriented things that a summoner would need to be able to do with their pet, then you would definitely, you know, want to invoke some of that. Yep. Yep. Yeah, either through mind control or even just like, yeah, kind of becoming the pet for a period of time, which I think would be really cool too. Summoners equal the Power Rangers of Terminus. I mean, that's, you know what, Glorf, I could have probably just started the stream with that. Probably just started it with that. Yeah. The question is, where does Dangle Wangle fall on this chart? That's a great question, Crackfire. I mean, coming in asking the real questions. Dangle Wangle. I miss having time to make fun little shorts like that, by the way. Hopefully we'll get back to that point soon. Joppa, will mastery start at level 5 after, and if so, after you pick a mastery, will that change your class name on the all or social window of the mastery you picked? Mastery will start at level 5, or so this is another one of those examples, kind of like I gave with like the flat bar mastery versus the radial. We've been mapping out the potential for mastery to start at 5 or mastery to start at 10. And so I'm only saying that as a caveat to say, most likely once we get to testing, that could be something that we tweak, because a lot of that has to do also with how we, you're going to have a finite amount of mastery that you can get in total. Some of that will come through leveling. A good portion of it will come through other means, horizontal means, that, you know, because the goal is to allow players to feel like they can progress in mastery without necessarily having to progress in level, or at least to the same degree. And so, anyway, but yeah, I mean, yes. Now to the second part of the question, will that change your class name on the all or social window of mastery you picked? Maybe, but you will not become a bastion or a warlord warrior until you've reached a certain point in that section, primarily through like getting far enough in it to unlock certain options that are very deep in it, where you've essentially kind of specialized in that kind of role, that theme, and that's most likely when we would attach the title. Necro currently plays like a warlock, not a master of the dead. Any comments on how that might change? How is that going to change? Well, there being more interactions with the pet for sure. So building out kind of like getting their pets in a better place. What I was kind of hinting at with some of the bone fragment changes and making those a little bit more immersive and interesting will be one step in that direction. You've also got, there's a lot of just CC stuff that's missing from the Necro, and a good portion of those will be like undead themed. Charm Undead is another one, a big one that's missing. I think, you know, things like their Lich line being able to actually, like, I don't know, being a little bit more prominent and vibey, the progression of their pets and how they look. I think it's not necessarily a bad thing that they kind of vibe a little bit into the warlock realm, because I think that's kind of a cool and I would say somewhat intended, you know, aspect of it. But I do think they are definitely missing some of that undead flavor. Also, Fairtail hype job is so excited, in case you couldn't tell. Oh man, yeah, Fairtail's gonna be amazing. I can't wait. Yeah. Cool. Chris, this is a good video, man. That's all we're gonna watch for today. But I did watch the whole thing myself, and it was very helpful. It was helpful to kind of get a better sense of like where some of the confusion is right now. So thanks so much for doing that one, man. It was really good. Yeah, that visual was great. Good eat. All right, let's take quick look at some summoner action here. That's good. The vibe of Necro doesn't currently seem focused on undead, but rather just debuffing, dotting, very warlock from WoW vibe. Yeah, I think it'll, with some of those changes I mentioned, I think it'll be a little bit more in its own. A little bit more. Okay, I caught up back to live. Sorry for the random ooh, but lol, your response, yes, it would be cool theoretically, but it would work. Will it work well is questionable. One major question though, Joppa, and sorry if I missed an answer to it. What about, say, a fully DPS mastery warrior versus like a fully DPS focused wizard? Would there be no comparison? The wizard would always win, or does the warrior stand on some equal footing? No, the warrior would stand on some equal footing in that case. I mean, in that sense, it would be, that's the kind of like competitive kind of realm that I you know, we really feel strongly that these classes need to land in. Otherwise they're not going to be worth taking. You know, they're not going to be worth the slot. So but the same kind of sense would apply where, you know, wizard is capable of, you know, kind of burst heavy single hit damage that, you know, none of them, I mean, other than maybe monk in some cases, none of the melee classes are as capable of hitting. So it'll be more of kind of like they're parsing competitively, not perfectly, not surgically, but competitively. And in different scenarios and with different player skill and things like that, you could even see a DPS warrior on top. But again, that I just want to emphasize so clearly that comes at the cost and the sacrifice of most of what is going to make a warrior able to tank. And a lot of the, you know, things that we're going to be adding into that bastion tree to really kind of fill out and flesh out their tanking, you're not going to have access to a lot of that when it comes to going the warlord route. But will it heal? Will it heal? So, a little bit more work on the Zephyr. And I did try out, you guys had mentioned, I think it was it was either in like a YouTube comment or maybe it was part of the stream. I can't remember, but somebody was like, they should really be like pointing at the pet when their pets do abilities. And so I've been kind of playing with that a little bit to see how that feels. And I think it feels pretty cool. So, I don't have it quite. I don't have the final ability for the summoner, for the Zephyr's like little loop built yet. Maybe we can work on that here in a second. But I can tell you how it will work. So at least, you know, a little bit about how it's going to work. So you've got Windblade, and Windblade is your kind of bread and butter attack that you're doing, melee attack that you're doing. So what I'm going to probably do, for example, is start an encounter with Gale Step. Gale Step is a shadow step behind the target and a backstab in one ability. Gale Step is a shadow step behind the target and a backstab in one ability. And that's going to get the Zephyr in place, going to get the Zephyr started, you know, dealing damage. It's going to be a nice opening hit. You're going to have Windblade, which is kind of your bread and butter, you know, main attack that you're doing. And every time you use Windblade, it's going to build a stack of swirling winds on the Zephyr. And the other ability, the one I haven't built yet, is Tempest. And Tempest, think of Tempest as kind of a finishing move that will deal damage based on how many wind stacks that it has. And so, you know, you want to build it up, let's say, to like 5 stacks. Then you use Tempest, and Tempest is going to do, you know, heavy damage based on all those stacks. But Tempest is also not going to have a cooldown. It's going to be usable anytime you want. And so you can use it on a single stack. Or you can build it up to 5 stacks. Gale Step into Gale Strike with the backstab. Windblade. There's the point. The point. I think it's cool. I think the point's kind of cool. Once these, you know, as he's behind a target, I've got the target in a constant stunned state. So, you can use Gale Step on cooldown. It'll still, you know, just do what it's mainly doing, which is the backstab at that point. And then we got these cool, nifty new visuals for the Mana Bomb and the Clash Bomb. So first we'll do Mana Bomb. And then Clash Bomb. Which is still using the Mana Bomb data, but we'll probably, you know, scale them, maybe scale down just a little bit, but I think they look really, really cool. So that was Bomb and Zephyr attack kind of going on there. The Zephyr is feeling really good. The Fury's feeling really good. The Zephyr's feeling really good. Which makes me happy. Let's do that again. Wow, that's a nice little crit there. It's cool. It's cool. Feels good, guys. Feels good. That's not even with like Tempest in play. That'll be even heavier hitter. Of course, my heating pad. Yes, Osmos. This is yeah, working on the summoner. Not out yet. Summoner. This summoner refresh update's coming out in February. Nice. Kind of want to do that again. Do one more round here. Wait, I just want to hold on. Okay, got to fix that because you should be able to use the pet's ability while you're casting. Ooh. Damn. Yeah, that feels great. I mean, it feels like the main thing that feels so good is feeling like so much more connected now to what your pet is doing. Like you can see it in the combat text, you can hear it. It's got a really nice like responsiveness, which we're gonna even see some further improvements on that come summer with some of our like server optimizations. But it even now it's got a really nice responsiveness to it. It feels much more like visceral than it did. Joppa, do you expect Summer to be on the same level as Wizards is right now, aka OP? Yes, they will come out in the same way because they're going to be tuned towards, you know, where we're ultimately going. So yeah, they'll be pretty strong when they come out. They patch in armor yet? I assume not. I don't know. Actually, I haven't tried putting armor on the Zephyr. Let's just see. Doesn't look like it. Nope. Nope. Bummer. I'm excited about how their weapons are going to look too. We're doing a pass on their weaponry, and going to look a lot cooler. A lot cooler. Are we still summoning armor with 30 spells? No. In fact, the majority of pet armor is actually going to shift to being dropped. It'll be drops. There'll be some crafted options and some things like that, but there'll be a lot of you know, things you can quest for, things you can drop, things that you can have crafted, stuff like that. So yeah. Nope, not going to be in our committal armor progression anymore. We might revisit that at some point, but I think I just in a lot. Honestly, that's one of those where, based on a lot of just like player feedback, and it's also, I mean, summoners have, you know, potentially up to 4 pets, you know, and so it's like the amount of time that summoners would need to put into gathering all of the different, to try to make it like a truly compelling system, it would need layers and it would need, you know, some, I don't know. It just was a lot. It was a lot. You mean there will be pet specific armor that players can't wear that we'll see added. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, there are some things, contrary to what some people think, we don't do every one of our ideas. Sometimes we'll say, you know what, that's something that I feel like we can cut. But again, it's one of those things, like it's one thing to cut an idea completely, like it's just never going to happen, and then it's another thing to say, let's get this summoner refresh done. Let's actually get pet armor and pet visuals and scaling pet armor and all that in. Let's get it in a way that we know, is established and works through drops and maybe some, crafting recipes and whatnot. And then we'll see. There's nothing to say down the road that there isn't room to revisit that. And honestly, part of it too is like, I want to make sure that we don't just rough it in. Like if we're going to really do that, I really want it to be like a fleshed out system, fleshed out experience. So yeah, you'll still have be able to have the Undyne out with another pet of your choice. Yeah. The summoner pet armor and wizard stack weaving were your best class design ideas. Yeah, if one of the first things that, if you ever, I didn't go to school for game design or anything like that, but one of the first things that they should say, like the first day of class, top of the syllabus in bold writing, is be ready to kill your darlings. Be ready to put them to death. Don't ever get so attached to any one thing that you can't handle, letting it go. So. Joppa, can you speak on necropets? Is it still planned for them to equip everything and lose it on death? Okay. Necropets are going to get an updated inventory paper doll. They're going to actually, be skellies. You are not going to have armor slots for a necropet. You will be able to equip necropets with weapons, but you won't be able to equip them with any and all weapons. And the main point there is you're not going to be able to equip necropets with like weapons of a certain tier, a certain quality. The exchange is you're not going to lose those weapons when the pet dies. So can the summoner share their weapons with necros? Yes. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I was planning on working on today was some of the summonables. That would include weapons, an invis clicky, food and drink, and kind of increasing qualities of food and drink as a starting point. And I wanted to get those in and start playing with those. But yeah, we talked about that yesterday. Actually, we got kind of a nice bead on how we wanted to handle the weapons specifically, and I'm pretty happy with it. Hold on one sec. Ooh. Oh, that's cool. Ooh. Yeah, that's another cool thing about the summoner pet weapons that I'm excited about is I mean right now, I mean the weapons could not be more placeholder right now if we tried. But weapons will be pet specific and will be very kind of like representative of the pet. So for example, the Zephyr's wind blades will be only equipable by the Zephyr, and they will be very unique looking. They will look like wind blades. They'll look cool. They'll have a nice, visual to them. And the same way, the Fury will have their little these little energy hands, basically. Like think of them like glowing black stone from EQ kind of thing, where they'll have just kind of this energy, kind of flowing energy around their hands, and that'll be their weapon. And then those will be like player itemization. Those will be level based, and so the higher level your pet is, the better equipment they'll be able to put on. We might look at something like that, Glorf. That's not a bad idea. One of the things I'm most excited about is, which is weird, but I feel like it's gonna just enable so many different kind of, I don't know, types of items. Is the depleting, like decaying item lifetime for things like torches, but also for things like rebreathers or breath stones or things like that the summoner could summon, where instead of making something temporary or no rent, where it poofs when you log off, have it be more like you have a certain amount of time while this is equipped that you can use it until it runs out. Yeah, I'm pretty psyched about that for sure. All right. So I'm just gonna start. Let's see if we can get the invis clicky. I want to see if we can get that invis clicky working. Let's see. Okay. Um, a boy and his blob. You think this would be a good clicky, guys? Invisibility clicky? Or maybe this? Or the crab? What do you think? The crab? The ear? Yeah. Yeah, that ear's looking pretty strong. We can make it some. How do we do this? Let's make it some candy right now. Some candy. A boy and his blob. No, we'll go with call it. We'll call this Stone of Invisibility for now. Yes, this will be unique. And will be yeah. I think that's all we need to do. Vendor. Yeah, we could make. I mean, it's probably a good idea to make all of the summon stuff temporary. It's probably a good call. Doesn't really need an action. Okay. And then okay. My goodness. Okay. I think that's solid. I'm gonna hide my screen for a second so I can update and make sure that I'm fully up to date without giving away any deets. Yeah, well, yeah, the dropped gear for summoner pets is not temporary, correct? Yeah. Those the things you equip your pet with are as solid and as like permanent as unless it's a summoned weapon. But as of right now, summoners aren't going to be summoning weapons for your pet, but if it's a summoned sword that you hand to another player, then that would be temporary. Yeah. Have you considered requiring people to use bind to bind at a bindstone? Like having a bind affinity type spell that you can only cast at a bindstone other than like clicking on it? Is that what you mean? Yeah, we. I do like the idea of summoners summoning like world item stations, for example, that like, instead of summoning food into somebody's inventory, they actually summon like a little table, with some like food on it or something that players can come up and click, and clicking on it would give them their like a stack. Or at least grow into that, maybe they don't get that right out of the gate. But I think that of consumable items that they can summon and hand out. I think that'd be really cool. Yeah, mage table. Yeah, yeah. If tank classes that spec for DPS or heals will lose class-defining skills or armor, will a tank spec monk lose feign death, or what would a tank spec summoner sacrifice? They think of it more as like sacrificing and losing things that would allow for the other role to be performed. So something like feign death would not be at risk of being one spec or the other. Feign death would be much more an example of like kind of the various well, like I said earlier with the warrior, we talked about the warrior originally as being like a bastion, a warlord, or a commander, having those three things. But imagine it as if like bastion and warlord were kind of your two main paths, and then that third branch, that commander branch, with like the mobility and some of the banner type things, formations, the positional advantages, whatever. That imagine that being more woven throughout the array, where these are more kind of like not necessarily one side or the other type things that will be more accessible and will be part of how you kind of you're a bastion warrior, but you focused on like your banners and your mobility instead of your formations or some aspects of your shout. So in the same way, I know this is difficult to do somewhat without having like a visual that we can point to and talk through, but in the same way, feign death would be more of kind of that shared non-role defining ability that monks could choose to improve, kind of thing. So and summoner the same way. So if you're all in on your summoner, I'm sorry, if you're all in on your Titan and you've gone like full tank spec with your Titan for your summoner, you're just gonna forego a lot of mastery options that would juice out your Fury and your Zephyr, because the goal is not to like have a super juiced like Titan tank and then still be able to do like DPS class levels of damage through your other DPS pets. On the FD thing, perhaps a monk that tanks doesn't have any mastery to make their feign death remove dots, or the feign death fails more often. Yeah, and that's a big part of it too. So think of mastery as, when it comes to abilities, think of mastery as doing one of essentially three things: either unlocking a brand new ability, transforming an existing ability, or improving an existing ability. And there's many cases where something like Feign Death, for example, would have an option in, one side that looks like this, and then have a totally different option on the other side. And it's likely that, those two options would be mutually exclusive. Java, you marked that item as magic. What does that even mean or do in Pantheon? It was ultimately removed from EQ entirely. Yeah, it doesn't do anything right now. It's kind of like it's just a habit. Like, it's kind of this like subconscious habit where if it's anything that's related to a magical effect or a magical item in any way, that I just click it, because if we do decide to do something with it long term, we're just kind of keeping them marked that way. Why not go the talent approach for mastery? It would start at level 5 or 10, and players can spec into a path while still getting core abilities throughout the leveling process. I mean, that is what we're doing to a large degree. So you will get mastery points through leveling, and just leveling by itself will provide, a certain degree of mastery points. And then you will still have a base kit that you will unlock as you do now, and will have upgrades to as you level up. So all that. Shamans seem to have lost some of their class identity. Other classes can generally do their buffs, debuffs, group heals better. Will we see any changes giving them a more unique impact? Yeah, for all the healers, you're going to see pretty thorough kind of refresh with making sure that their healing style is unique and impactful, and kind of carving out a little bit more of like making sure there's not an insane amount of overlap or any one of those classes being too stacked. And shaman do need some help for sure, just with their healing output and being as hot heavy as they're intended to be. And then I think mastery will go a long way to allowing shaman to kind of find some of their their unique identity, especially in terms of their debuffing. Yeah, we're definitely going with the radial. We've locked that in. So on a DPS warrior, could you make their threat gain worse? Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. I mean, we could go as far as saying, for example, we're not planning on doing this. We've discussed it, but we don't have a plan to do it right now. But I'm just saying, like, we could go as far as making a specific attribute do something different for a warlord versus a bastion warrior, if we wanted to. If we wanted, if there was an attribute that like improved like innate threat gen or whatever, which a bastion warrior would obviously want, and let's say it was strength, there could be an option in the warlord side that strength either no longer increases threat gen and instead does this thing that's unique to the warlord, because that's the key, is like the warlord is going to need to be a DPS loop, and so it's going to need at least a couple of new abilities that are unique to the warlord side, and they're going to need some secondary and tertiary effects on their abilities. That the damage is still helpful for tanks, to hold threat. And part of like our warrior refresh is going to be kind of giving warriors of all, the whole like spectrum of like the warlord versus the bastion and like any kind of combination of that. Just the base kit, the warrior base kit, fleshing that out with a few more offensive abilities in general. But I feel like I'm missing something with that question, Malcal. I don't understand. Is this more of a problem for you guys to overcome? I'm just curious how this would work. How does a class with only one DPS tree compete with a DPS with 3 DPS trees? What do you mean by that? Grando Reaper, yes, we do plan to have a very robust bard class. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I understand now. Let me process that for a second. And let me also try this out real quick. Yeah, Grando, if you're interested in the bard, then when we start talking about the bard and putting some info out there, that'll be a really fun thing for you to check out, because it's gonna be really cool. Are mastery points planned to give the player a point per bubble, or maybe point per half level? It's going to be more like a point per level, or a point every other level, because there's going to be a lot of other ways to get mastery points as well. In addition to just leveling, there's going to be a lot of like activities and different things you can do to gain mastery points. So we want to limit how much is coming through leveling and how much is available for players to, go out into the world and get. So this sounds like a rewrite in a 2-year dream again. Not sure this is getting to a release state or just moving it all a few years in the future. Oh no, this is all coming out in spring, Symbiosum. This is this is all there's not an undefined release date for this stuff. Everything that we're discussing here is all landing in spring. So let's see. Where's my, oh yeah. Nope. Where's my little spot? And what am I even doing? I don't need to go to that spot to try this. All right. No, that's not what I just want to see if this clicky works first. And yes, I know we need a general bar where you can put clickies on. It's not in your inventory. I know. Woo! Sick. Sick. It's a small thing, but very cool. Summoners rejoice. Hungry and thirsty. If only I had a way to summon food and drink. That's what we will do when we return. What I'll also just say this too. Sometimes what sounds from me like indecision is me trying in real time to navigate what I can say and can't say. Which is, it's the bet I've made. Like, if I want to stream, I want to talk to you guys about the game. Like, there are certain things I can't talk about yet, and so what sounds like indecision is the rather difficult task sometimes of navigating in real time what I can talk about and can't. So keep that in mind. All right, I want to answer your question, Malkel. I really need a bio break, so I'm gonna go do that real quick. When I come back, we will. Before I go, Fox Behind the Box, sick name. Thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. Seriously, that is very appreciated. And the 8 months of support. Bio break. When I come back, we'll talk about that question, Malkel, because I think that's an important clarification. So be right back. Yo. Yo. Respecialization available at Spring Patch. Can you please make a group cast of the Invis Stones? You will be able to respec yes. And given that we're in EA, we're likely to be more free with the respec. Not making it free, but we're likely to be a little bit more loose with respecing than we will be at launch. Just, you know, just to, yeah. Okay. To your question, Malco. I'm curious how it would work. How does a class with only one DPS tree compete with a DPS with 3 DPS trees? So warrior will have 1 DPS mastery tree, wizard may have 3. Okay. There's not going to be... Well, let me think how I phrase this. Classes that are going to do... It's not going to be like a WoW mage thing where you have, you know, you're like a fire mastery, shock mastery, and cold mastery. Some of that is because, you know, the wizard is built to weave. They're built and designed to have, you know, multiple schools of magic not only available to them but like actively being used. And so the way that it's most likely going to work for the wizard. Hey, see you later, Chris. Yeah, sick. Thanks for letting us check out your video on stream, man. Take care. Have a good night. Anyway, with the wizard, you're going to have a mastery path that is more about kind of like emphasizing and strengthening the current wizard style with particularly in regards to like long casts, big heavy hits, kind of the more stand and deliver glass cannon, you know, big boom wizard. And then your other potential path is going to be more like a faster casting, more mobile type wizard. That's the kind of stuff that you can expect from, you know, breakdowns and things like the wizard class. So you're not looking at, you know, building out this whole spec for fire, which is totally different in a completely different class and a completely different gameplay than this whole spec for frost or cold, which is completely different from this thing for shock. It's going to be more playstyle oriented. And to some degree, we're taking liberty as we go from class to class, where it's not necessarily that we feel like, you know, every class has to have this totally different role subspec or whatever. It all comes down to, can 100% of your mastery points as a warrior go into DPS? If yes to that, it makes sense. Yeah, it totally can. Because, and I say that because, yes, you can literally pump every single one of your points into Warlord. There will be enough options in the Warlord side to literally spend all of your points there. But also, there will likely be some things in the Bastion side that you will still want. They're not going to be tanky. They're not going to be tank-related things, but there are going to be some things, and Warlords are not going to have shield block, obviously, but you might be able, in the Warlord side, to unlock a parry ability, or something to do with parry to improve your parry, just, you know, as a small mitigation bonus, something like that. In the same way, there could be something on the Bastion side that while most Bastion warriors might not necessarily choose it, a Warlord warrior is going to be like, oh, that actually kind of rounds out my DPS role really nicely. But yeah, no, you're definitely seeing a Riley there where you will be able to kind of invest all of your points or mix and match in various different ways. You will not be able to switch mastery on the fly. That's another great question, a really important clarification. There's been a lot of discussion about, is this going to be like a dual spec thing or a multi-spec where you can kind of like, no. At the very least, there is going to be an increasing cost to respecking, and you will have to go somewhere to do it. You're not going to be able to go from Bastion to Warlord in the dungeon. Like tank leaves, you're there as like a Warlord warrior, and you're like, oh well, I'll just switch to my tank spec and tank. You're not gonna be able to do that. We want there to be freedom to respec and try something different. But we don't want it to be so loose and kind of free that you can just do it on the fly. And we could even introduce, a cooldown to it to some degree. Not saying that we will. A lot of that kind of stuff will that's where the PTR is going to be awesome, because we'll be able to like have so many of you actually feeling it out and whatnot. But yeah. Would Summers be able to heal a group with Undyne? No, we're not going to go that route with them. The Undyne will be able to heal like they do now, but they will have some healing abilities they can use on other players. But no, there's not going to be a mastery spec to make them into full healers, no. Undyne will not have its own tree. Undyne will have kind of a smattering of different options baked into the tree, but they won't have their own tree. Joppa, recommendation, please. Can you release a 3 to 10 minute summary video of these episodes? It's impossible to consume so many hours, and I believe it will help build interest to interested players. Dude, I think that's an amazing suggestion, and it absolutely is something I want to do. I just need to figure out how. I mean, what would you guys suggest? Because I know these are really long, and I know for those of you that are here live, it's great. I know for some of you, you really like having the long YouTube videos to watch and kind of, do it at your leisure. But yes, I know that there are some of you that are like, I would love to go to YouTube, see like a 5 to 10 minute video recapping everything. What's the best way to do that? Teach me. Keep notes on what to talk about, recap it at the end, then upload the recap. Yeah, just like kind of have like take some hard notes, timestamps, and then yeah, I could do that. Audio to text. Where do you do audio to text? Pay a mod $750 a month. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Cricket? Any new races coming soon? I can't say. I can't talk about the race timeline. I will look into it. I'm really bummed because, well, so what I used to do is I used to simulcast Twitch, YouTube, and I would record locally the streams as well in higher quality, so I could take that and edit it down and make it really clean. And my streaming recording PC is just not, it's not handling it very well. It's lagging out the streams too much for me to do that. So I definitely have some optimizations to do, because I'm not super happy with like the VOD quality either. I know that VOD quality is not great in general on either platform, but I know that my settings could be a lot more optimized, and I need to figure that out. But yes, so in JassJ, that's heard for sure. I will do my best to find a good solution for that. Yeah. I shall. Every class getting 3 mastery trees, no more, no less. No. No. Not every class will have the same. Let me back up. What we said originally was that not every class would have 3. Some would have 3, some might have 2. As we are getting closer to implementation and we're starting to actually implement some of these things, build out, the UI elements and kind of get everything together, we have decided to move it to where every class is going to have 2. And the third branch is going to be like interspersed, which is why I've been using the example with the warrior of Bastion and Warlord, with commander being kind of interspersed, like kind of the theme of the commander and the things that would be in the commander being interspersed. And that's where you're going to see a lot of your variety. As I said at the beginning, class identity is key. And as we got into the implementation phase, and as we've been working on UI elements and implementing these things, the dissection that was going to need to happen of the base class and the base class's identity to create 3 true standalone branches was proving for several of the classes, especially the healers, to be just too much, too far over the line of kind of splitting them out in any kind of good way. So that's where we've landed. Yep. I know, right, T-Chief? Yes, Marks, yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Black Lotus, you'll be free to do that. You won't be free to put points in every single option in every tree, because some of them will have prerequisites, some of them will require, like, more total points spent, and you just won't have total freedom, but you'll have mostly freedom to pick and choose as you want. I mean, in fact, you could be a warrior and literally like put half your points in Bastion, half your points in Warlord, and not really ever specialize in either. And in the case of like somebody who's playing more casually, that is either choosing to solo or has like kind of a pre-made that they play with, like a smaller group or whatever, that may be perfect. So yeah, you don't have to go all the way. Summon dinghy. Yep. Talk about the philosophy you have for the bard. The bard I mean, the overall philosophy for the bard is to be the flagship support class in the game. To have the most variety of support that they can do and have the ability to kind of weave together different support more fluidly and more responsibly than any other class. So they can handle, you know, varying situations and changing situations and fluctuating situations more fluidly, and just have the broadest and the broadest coverage of support. And then I've always loved kind of the interplay of bards that are more focused on their more focused on like direct combat, being, you know, actually like capable like weapon wielders, but more, you know, roguelike and or you know, I don't have a problem with like bards in that vein, even, you know, going a two-handed route. Yeah, like a Scald. But then also bards that are much more focused on the musical side, to the point where they may not even hold a weapon at all. I think that's really intriguing. Yeah, so I guess I'll leave it at that for now. Any chance of a preview of the tree? Let me see. Yeah, I mean, as long as you guys understand that this is, of course, like just a preview, I'm going to give all credit to Codeman, who is Codeman does all of our visual effects. What some people don't know is that Codeman's also a designer, and a amazing designer at that, on the game design side. And so he has been present and deeply involved in all of our discussions and whatnot along the way. And this is hold on. Let me get a little. So obviously without any of the pretty stuff, any of the aesthetics, but a little bit of a kind of a visual representation of what the kind of the dual radial could be like, where if you imagine Bastion on this side, Warlord on this side, and, you know, this line not being a hard line, you're not locked into one side or the other, but thematically that's what these sides represent. But then you're free to, you know, spend points as you radiate out. Whoops, sorry. No, I'm sure most people can't see anything. Anyway, Bastion on the left, Warlord on the right, and then, you know, the ability to kind of like move out in, you know, these various directions, either kind of along the theme of one or the other, but then being able to mix and match and whatnot. So yeah. Neff's going to kill me for showing this. No, he's no, we like, this is all information that we do want to get out to you guys. Again, as like, please understand, we show these things. These are insights. These are little glimpses into our process of working through this. So don't take this as some kind of set in stone, like, well, this is exactly what it's going to look like. But this is the best representation of where we're headed. And so, you know, obviously that goes with the full caveat of subject to change, you know? So that's why, you know, it's just a necessary reality for this stream because of how, you know, I'm not doing it in kind of like an officially sanctioned way. It, you know, it is, but obviously like that's where we're going with it right now. And that's how it's going to be. Class icon would be cool in the middle. Yeah, class icon in the middle, or kind of how I was envisioning it is like, yeah, on the left, the Bastion side, you've got like, you know, whether it's statues or something like that, you've got kind of this warrior in heavy plate mail with like a massive shield and kind of their arm or their hand on the top of it, and it's like standing, you know, touching the ground, coming up to like their chest or whatever. And then on the right side, the warlord side, you've got, you know, the warrior in light plate with like the massive like two-hander over their shoulder, or, you know, like a one-handed axe over their shoulder and the other one like down. And you've got these kind of representations of like the two sides, something like that. I mean, there's a lot of different things we could do, but it's definitely going to be vibey. Not sure if you answered this. Is Torhirith still going to have zip lines and catapults in the future when it's updated? I will kick and scream and squeal and throw an absolute fit to try and put every ounce of pressure I can, if any is needed, to have functioning zip lines and catapults as part of the way you maneuver around Torhirith. I think it's absolutely vital to the vibe, the halfling vibe, and yeah. Sometimes the ladder to the druid trainers acts as a catapult right now. There you go. Hey. What, I mean, you know? Yeah, the Hook Lost Boys is like a huge part of this. Huge. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna lock in, get some more of the summoner stuff done. I am planning, as of right now, to stream again on Friday. It's been a minute since I've done 3 streams, but I'm excited to kind of, for you guys to see, you know, how the summoner is continuing to take shape. And, you know, there's obviously plenty of good discussion going on in the community right now that I think it's helpful to kind of continue to be a part of that and kind of steward some of that conversation a little bit. So I'm planning to be back on Friday. I'm probably going to wrap it up for today because I'm getting mega hungry, to be honest. And I need to eat something, and then I need to bust this out. And to all the people that have asked for, hey, when are we going to get more detail on mastery? When are we going to see more mastery deep dives, all that stuff? It really is coming soon. And it can't come soon enough because I'm eager to start talking about a lot of that stuff without having to, do that kind of real-time editing. So that's another reason I'm excited to hopefully be doing more streams with some very specific things to talk about here in the coming days and weeks. So, but I think that's a good place to stop. I hope this has been clarifying. Thank you guys for the feedback on the YouTube front as well. And I am going to put some time into that and see if I can make that a little bit better for you guys that are going to want a recap. Summoner summoning a special mount. Could be. It would still need to be tamed, but could be. Not gonna rule it out. Yes, and the verisimilitude, yes. Verisimilitude is a big part of what we need to keep pumping on. So, yeah, and also hopefully by Friday we'll be at a good place where we can keep pushing on the cleric a little bit too, because I do want to keep those play sessions going, even as things ebb and flow with just sheer busyness. I want to keep trying to carve out time to do that. So, as of right now, yeah, plan on Friday stream. We'll get into a variety of that and. Dual wield two-handed weapons for warriors. Maybe one day. The Titan's Mitt. The Titan's Mitt. What an amazing item. Few items in games hit me like the Titan's Mitt. Hook shots up there. The Titan's Mitt, though. I mean, sorry, it's so random, but the things that unlocked in my brain, guys, like the categories that Titan's Mitt and being able to pick up those rocks opened in my brain. It was like, I don't know how to describe it. Anyway, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. Okay. Do you guys have plans for an overarching story? My wife started playing with me and she thought it seemed odd that there wasn't much story around our characters. We do have plans for more of an overarching story and just kind of context within the different, kind of starting areas and to kind of help players get into the flow of the game. There certainly is an overarching story. And there are lots of like major dramatic questions and narrative questions and mysteries and intrigue and stuff that is, there's a ton. There's not an overarching story in the sense that you're going to kind of get swept up in something like a single player game type deal where you have this kind of continuous narrative from beginning to end. It's more about building more of the kind of localized regional and then some of that larger cosmic story on ramps for players, more so than we have now. So the answer is lots of improvement on that front coming. That's one of our major focuses right now, is improving that side of the game, but not in like a fully overarching sense, or not in a way where you're led to the start of an overarching story that kind of stays with you the whole time, kind of thing. Titan's Mitt got you smitten. Giant boulder, easy lifting. Yes, not like a Final Fantasy 14 style. Yes, not like that. The hero of the story or the world. There's opportunities for heroics, but it's not part of building verisimilitude and believability is the fact that like this world has long existed before you. There's a limit to like how much people are willing to kind of onboard you into various things, until you've really earned that right, or have gotten to the point where it's appropriate for you to be aware of such things. I mean, there's a lot we're wanting to navigate there. Very rags to riches. So, yeah. Living world versus epic storytelling. There you go. See, I need you guys to kind of like give me like real time like word cards. Like, hey, you're about to say all these things that's going to take you 2 minutes when you could just say we're going living world versus epic storytelling. Yeah. Pressure acclamation from Frigid Zone and wind shear acclamation from Pressure Zone, for example, just like Zelda and Metroid. Oh, yeah. There's that song. There's my song. Okay. I'm going to go eat. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the subs, the follows, the input, all that. It is so appreciated. I hope you know that. I'll be excited to be back with you on Friday. And until then, stay safe, have fun. I'm excited. Hopefully this has been helpful. Can't wait till next time. You guys are awesome. Until then, my friends, we'll see you very soon. Adios.